What's the earliest memory of coffee?
Okay, so my earliest memory of coffee was growing up as a kid. When I was about 3 years old, I was adopted. I'm half adopted. And so I was adopted into this beautiful family, the Smith family. And we moved to the same town as the Smith family, my grandmother, my grandfather, and they had 5 children. And so at the time, 2 of their children were still home. My dad was the oldest. And so they all went to the same church, St. Paul's United Methodist Church. And we would go. My grandfather was like one of the founding members. And so every Sunday, we would all go as a family. We had like the whole pew was the Smith pew. And his job was to make the cookies and the coffee for in between service and Sunday school. And so I remember going, and it was like the biggest deal ever to get to help Grandpa with the cookies and coffee. And so we'd take the cookies out of the freezer and like warm them up in the microwave, or the oven, maybe. I think it was the oven, off the oven. And he would make the coffee. And my grandfather would make coffee and eventually pour himself a cup and continue to drink his coffee while he was finishing putting everything on platters. And I just remember loving the smell of coffee. And he let me taste it, and I hated it. Because I was like 3 or 4 years old. But I just had such fond memories to this day of the smell of coffee because it was that moment where my grandfather and we got to do service together, and both of us are very service oriented people. And looking back on it, I realized that now we were doing service, and I'm a quality time kid. So like my love language was quality time. So it was quality time with my grandfather at the church in a place where I felt really safe. And yeah, I just remember him always having coffee. And I think you and I, Jim, talked about um, the tradition of not washing the coffee cup. And my grandfather was that way with his coffee cup at home. He like never washed it. Like my grandmother would have to pour it out and only allowed to rinse water in it. Like that was it. And I remember once wiping it with like a paper towel, going, "Oh my gosh, what's in here?" But he loved his coffee that way. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.